So if you worked your way into success, you're no longer black. And since when did disliking Issa Rae become a trending topic? Hey everyone, Chloe here, and welcome back to this soft power and hypergamous platform. And if you are a new subscriber to our community, then hello and hi and welcome. So I wanted to speak to an ongoing debate as it relates to the very uncomfortable topic of class and how we really need to unpack why there always seems to be such a need and such a thirst to aggressively attack success of any kind, especially when success is wearing a black face. Now, every day, our internet cousins continue to look for ways to entertain themselves out of boredom by trying to disinvite and authenticate, or by trying to disqualify a person out of their blackness because they weren't born in struggle. And these conversations that are really rooted in the insecurities of those who do not have and who hate to see others have it are starting to get super weird and super goofy and super weak. And they need to be aired out for good because there are way too many people in our community who want the status quo of poverty and struggle to be maintained by any means necessary, and who want to put fear into the hearts of black success so that they can feel ostracized and alienated, and so that they can ultimately feel uncomfortable and apologetic for their success, especially when they've been successful for way too long, or when their success starts to become too big for others to swallow. The internets, by definition, are the elevation of the petty when it comes to its daily conversations, and there is no getting around this. We love to squabble, we love the same circular arguments in different fonts, and we love to turn everything into World War VI. And per usual, the saddest part about this conversation is that this hate is without surprise coming from other black women. And we've talked about this over and over again on this platform, but the black community has a huge problem with glorifying struggle and disliking blacks whose parents were committed to giving them a better life. Because the moment that we find out that a black woman is middle class or upper class or wealthy, or is a provider for a wife, or that she comes from a supportive two-parent home, or that she took piano lessons, or that she had family vacations, or that her father didn't abandon her, or that her social status didn't start in the projects, we cry that they are unrelatable, and then we wage war to break those people in half with petty discourse. We are going to have to accept as black people that we have such a vast and diverse experience that is rich in heritage, whether poor, middle class, or wealthy. But those who are committed to the image of the status quo seem to be hell-bent on making sure that blackness means one thing and one thing only, which is struggle and dysfunction, which quietly means that if you are black, don't you dare break the collective bargaining agreement that states that black people who didn't get it out of the mud deserve to be ostracized or disinvited from the boots on the ground line dance. But who makes up these invisible rules where black folks with status should be disinvited from the cookout? Now, apparently some folk are accusing Issa Rae of green lighting oppressive tropes and for promoting lower class black girl stereotypes in the movie One of Them Days, which was directed by Lawrence Lamont and screenwritten by Sarita Singleton, a black woman, and who stars the singer and songwriter and now actress SZA and Keke Palmer. And because Issa Rae herself comes from a middle-class experience where her Senegalese father was a doctor and her African-American mother was a teacher, she is being accused of being inauthentic and for promoting dysfunction as an exploited black product as the executive producer of this film. Now, I went to see this movie with my circle, and in my point of view, it was okay. It wasn't a totally cringy or painful watch. It was a slapstick buddy comedy. We know that Issa Rae does comedy, and there were a couple of cliched, ratchet, and unfunny recycled tropes, and I expected that, but no harm, no foul, and there is always room for improvement. But I don't need a movie to be Iyanla Fix My Life in order for it to be supported, because the movie business is a business first. Apparently, some people are not okay with the fact that Issa Rae did not grow up living a hard life, and it has some folks accusing her of exploiting working class struggle. Now, I promise you, ladies, just because we are not all the products of fatherlessness and crack mothers in Raising Canaan does not make the black experience any less authentic. Ladies and lurkers, being a benefactor of your parents' success will never make you less black, especially when you're the woman who is literally known for saying,
Everybody black. I am betting on black tonight.
5 years ago here at the Emmys, you told us that you were rooting for everybody black. Tonight, Issa Rae, who are you rooting for?
Everybody black. Nothing has changed. It will never change.
But let's really talk about the raw nerve that is being touched here and about what is really at the heart of this conversation, which is the spirit of insecurity, because there will always be certain faces of the community who will always be very uncomfortable acknowledging status and stature differences, and who will always be uncomfortable with social climbing and hypergamous conversations because they hit and expose a self-esteem and a worth nerve that makes them super uncomfortable and triggered. So instead, we are more comfortable with promoting a united face of dysfunction because it is less threatening and it is much more soothing to the ego when the struggle boat is crowded. And I fear that this community schism and mindset will unfortunately forever be permanent. Now, to wrap this all up with a beautiful bow, a couple of things. One, the people who are committed to being the enemy of progress will always exist, and there is absolutely nothing that you can do about that. Pressure makes diamonds. Two, it is never your job to manage the insecurities of others, because the facts are, if a person is struggling, they should be inspired to want more for themselves, and they should be willing to do the work to get ahead in life instead of digging their heels in the spirit of envy and all of the nasty, insecure discourse that comes with it. And three, we need to stop villainizing and weaponizing when people become successful. And we need to stop trying to take away people's black card because they didn't grow up and struggle, because I promise you, there is a little black girl out there who needs an Issa Rae for inspiration, and there is a young woman out there who wants to be a hypergamous wife and mother who needs a Chloe, and both are equally valid. Yes, being poor makes life harder than it needs to be, and when people are successful, they should always give back to their communities in some capacity or form because it is the right thing to do. But successful people are not responsible for apologizing for their advantages. And if anything, you should always be inspired by the people that you need to learn from instead of going out of your way to discredit them. This all goes back to a video that I did about a femininity and a hypergamous creator who beautifully unpacked that her worst critics and that the people who wanted to see her fail the most were other black women who looked like her. Because unfortunately, we say we want to see positive examples of success. We say we want to see generational curses lifted. And then when we see it, we work overtime and we work in overdrive to destroy them due to our own insecurities and because people simply do not like when you surpass their expectations of you. And this mentality is a nasty build you up, tear you down mindset that will continue to repeat itself over and over again. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And as far as I'm concerned, Issa Rae will never get canceled by me unless I find a video of her drowning puppies. And black does not and will never only mean poor, dysfunctional, hardship, deadbeat fatherhood, or struggle. And I will die on that hill because I was born into poverty and I am none of those things. And as long as you are rocking with this channel, neither will you. So that is all that I have to say on this for now. But to keep this conversation going, did you see the movie One of Them Days? If so, what are your thoughts? Do we have a problem with black people who are successful? Should Issa Rae stay in her middle class lane when it comes to her storytelling? Or does not struggling always seem to make a certain group of people uncomfortable? And as always, I thank you for liking, for subscribing, and for sharing the videos on this channel to grow this platform. And please stay tuned for more videos to come. And I will catch up with you ladies and lurkers and ear hustlers in the next one.
Since when does growing up in the suburbs make you less black? Since white supremacy convinced us that poverty is a requirement for black identity. But like, shouldn't black creators be relatable? Relatable to who though? Just because someone's story doesn't mirror yours doesn't make it invalid. Blackness is not a monolith. Okay, but I'm just saying though, Issa Rae grew up middle class. And blackness is not defined by pain, you fool. It's not authenticated by struggle. We're allowed to exist in joy and abundance and peace, and yes, in the suburbs. But people are saying she doesn't represent the real black experience. No, what they're saying is she doesn't perform the pain-based version of blackness that they've been conditioned to expect. And that mindset, that's respectability politics. That's internalized anti-blackness. Dang. I'm a victim. Dang, you're an offender. Listen, when we say stuff like this, we erase the full range of Black experiences, that entire range that we're consistently advocating for, but at the same time, dashing it every time we see it. We end up gatekeeping our own people. And let's be real, white supremacy loves when we do the job for them.
Can't be nasty and needy. You don't get to mistreat people and then expect there to be no consequences. It's natural for people to protect themselves from people who try to hurt them. See, decency is the price you pay for access. Access to help, access to support, access to consideration. If you're going to have a bad attitude or mishandle your words and mistreat people, then you better be ready to handle life on your own. Most folks aren't signing up to help somebody who hurts them. Like, how are you bold enough to be reckless with your conduct, but then soft enough to expect support? Make that make sense. You can't bruise your fist on my chin and then ask me for the Band-Aid. That's not how this works. That's not how life works. So you got to choose. Either be measured with your mouth, careful with your character, and considerate with your actions, or be ornery and walk alone. Like, if you're out here burning bridges, don't act surprised when nobody shows up with a boat. Favor flows where honor goes. So treat people with consideration, or they might treat you the way you treat them.